Hello, everyone, and welcome to Two Perfect Gentlemen. I'm Dominion.
And I'm the Promise, and tonight we're going to be talking to you folks about eSports. It's something that is pretty important to both of us, and it's pretty important to gaming right now as a whole. It's something that I think we both feel that has the potential to really push gaming into the mainstream as a whole.
Oh yeah,
I think.
yeah. I'm completely right there with you. I've been watching StarCraft 2 pro tournaments probably 2 months after it came out. It's my personal favorite out of all of the tournaments that you could possibly do, just because of I feel that the difficulty level is much higher for that particular game. It's a personal opinion. For those of you out there that like Street Fighter and stuff, that's perfectly okay as well.
No, it's not. Fuck them. Play a real game.
No,
I'm kidding. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, you've made the argument plenty of times that StarCraft 2 isn't, that Street Fighter's not really. I mean, it's actually pretty difficult to play.
Oh yeah, it's horribly difficult to play against, especially against these fucking demons that play in the pro tournaments. It's disgusting how good some of these players are. It's gross. But yeah, I mean, StarCraft 2. I like watching StarCraft 2. I don't like playing StarCraft 2 because I suck. But I like watching it, and not really because of the difficulty. But I like watching StarCraft 2 because it's a very dynamic game. It's very easy to get into for the uninitiated, because really all you're doing is just watching two armies blow the fuck up out of each other.
Oh yeah,
and that's never old. I mean, the interim parts, with the farming and the building and the probing and the scouting, that might be a little tedious, but usually, by the end of a match, it definitely pays off because it usually climaxes with a fairly large scale battle. Which is usually a blast to watch. So, yeah,
sure.
I mean, yeah, StarCraft 2 is great. And, I mean, because of that, I think it's actually really cool that StarCraft 2 has kind of rode the esports wave from Korea into the U.S. because, like I said, it is a very accessible game to watch.
Oh yeah,
competitively. So, I do think that it's really good that, it has kind of the centerpiece mentality that it does in a lot of these American esports tournaments.
yeah. Personally speaking, like as far as the casting personalities too, I think that it's got a much older casting personality. They have a lot more experience, like Tasteless and Day 9 and Artosis. And Husky, even though he's kind of new to it, he's been doing it for a couple of years now, I think. And he's actually the one that, believe it or not, it wasn't Day 9 that got me into watching folks do those streams. It was actually Husky. Back before he even became this popular, I was looking him up all the time, and I thought he was a really good caster. And
yeah, because when I started to get into StarCraft, or not, when I tried to get into StarCraft 2, and I realized that I fucking sucked balls and I was never going to be any good at it. I remember you were linking me all the his early instructional videos, and I mean they were helpful, not to me, but I mean yeah, they were actually really helpful.
Yeah. And the thing is with those four. Especially my personal favorite is the Day 9 Husky combo. They work really well together. I know when we went to BlizzCon, there was some guys that were doing the World of Warcraft casting. Personally, not a big fan as far as their casting goes. But that's the thing. Like I think with StarCraft, there's so many different games that you can, break apart and analyze and, it's easily castable. Like you can easily right now, if I wanted to, I could start my own webcast where I stream and I tell people, hey, this is what this guy's doing right now. This is where he could go with it, or this is the opening he's going, and this is where he could go with it. And if he does that, then his opponent, if he scouts it, can do this and that. So, which is something that not too many games can do, especially the World of Warcraft tournaments, because it's so like the moment is so clutch. Like you're going from 3 guys attacking the healer, and then all of a sudden all their cooldowns are off cooldown, and they blow up one of the DPS and try to take it down before before the healer can help out, or some CC goes off. So although you have those clutch moments in StarCraft, I don't feel like they're you can't really figure out how the engagement's going to go. You can only hope that it gets executed in such a way. But
I mean, you can say the same thing about Warcraft too. I mean, it's because once the caster, or even you as a viewer, like once you know the comp of the team, I mean, it's really no different than StarCraft. You can speculate all you want about how they're going to go about their business.
Sure.
And I mean, in that respect, it really isn't that much different than StarCraft, like you said, where you have a rough idea of what they can do and what they can't do. It just boils down to whether they can execute it properly.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, they really aren't that different. And I mean, like, watching WoW arena streams is fun too. But just like the casters at BlizzCon, we didn't like, is really what it boils down to. Like, I didn't like either of them. One of them was like a tween crackhead, and the other one was just boring as shit. So really, most of the time, I wasn't even listening to them. I was just watching the big screen of the matches,
Yeah.
doing the own commentary in my head, and talking to some of the people who were around us watching the matches. I mean, really wasn't listening to them because they didn't interest me whatsoever. That wasn't the case for really any of the StarCraft matches, be it when what was it, the GSLs they had?
Yeah, sure.
It was the GSLs,
Yeah, it was the GSLs.
nighttime day 1, and then day 2 and 3 was the extended tournaments. And I mean, pretty much who they had casting those, it was Tasteless and Artosis for the first night, and then a mixture of, Tasteless, Artosis, Day 9, I think DJ Wheat was in on that for a little bit,
Yeah,
JP.
I think so.
Like, all of them were good to listen to. And I mean, that's a pretty big part of it too. Trying to establish eSports is you need to have good voices.
Oh, definitely.
When I say good voices, I don't mean silky smooth voices. I mean, like, you just need people who
know what they're
the random
talking
schmuck
about.
off the street can come in and listen to, and not be like, I want to fucking strangle him.
Right, and somebody that can, break the game down as it goes along, so that, they can kind of understand or get a grasp of, what this Protoss player is doing in order to counter whatever this the Zerg player is doing, or the Terran player. So
Right, yeah, exactly. Because I don't know my ass from my elbows in StarCraft, so a lot of these builds and counter builds, like, I have a vague idea of what counters what, and the total aspect of, like, a counter build, but I don't know the minutia. So it's cool to have a caster who can break it down and be like, he needs to do this now, this then, to get to this then. Like, that's cool to me, because that's not intuitive. I can't figure that shit out on my own. So when you have a really good caster who can break that down for you, and for anyone who's not necessarily inclined to the game, that's a great help, because it draws you in further, and you feel like you're a part of something that you may not actually be a part of.
Right. I just another thing that I want to talk about is the esports community. I think it's heading in a really good direction as far as the way that the players interact with one another and the way that us as fans interact with one another. It's not as I guess violent as some of the other sports where oh no, my team's going to win, and then they get into a fight. It's more like, I don't know. It really doesn't matter who wins because they're all fighting for honor. I feel like I don't think that any of them actually do this for the money. They do it.
Yeah, they do.
Well, I know.
Anyone?
They have to,
Like,
right?
okay. Anyone might not do it for the money, but he sure as hell doesn't do it for honor. He does it to win.
Yeah. He's
Okay, like he's a little crybaby, but at the bottom line, at the end of the day, the only reason he's playing StarCraft is because he wants to be a fucking winner. Like he's not doing it for honor, and he's shown that many times.
Yeah, he wants
You know,
he wants to
and
be
there-
the best
there are
of the
other-
best.
Yeah, and there are other players like him, not just in the StarCraft community that are characterized as BM bad manner players, but they don't fucking play for honor. They play to win. But that being said, on the whole, they're still respectful.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously anomalies, but on the whole, as a group, they're, pretty respectful bunch of dudes.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say firsthand. I wish I could. How the players interact with one another, but listening to Day 9 and watching the Liquid Rising video, and trying to get to know the players a little more from my perspective. Not being able to actually physically go and shake their hands and talk to them. I would say that 90% of all the players are really well mannered. You had me listen to Day 9 Daily number 100, and Day 9 talks about how some of the players that he went up against, like I believe one guy's name was Android, and he was a Russian player. And after the game, after the set was done, Android came over and shook his hand and just said, "Well played, man. I understand. I hate that it had to end this way."
Well, he lost. You left the part out. Day 9 lost.
Day 9 lost. Yeah,
it was the finals,
right.
I believe.
Or the semifinals. It was one of the two.
Was it? Yeah, it was semis or the final, but it was close to the end of the bracket, and he lost. Yeah.
Right, and that to a player, especially, if you spend hundreds of hours a week just playing the game, trying to be better, trying to get your your TVT, your TVP, your TVZ down, or any variation of, and then to go to these tournaments and find out that even though on the ladder you do really well, there's still guys out there that play just as much as you do, and you really have to put in your A game, and you have to continuously go to these tournaments, otherwise you lose the practice. Like that's huge, and you have to befriend a lot of other players as well, so that you can practice against them a lot. In not on the ladder, but in custom games and things of that nature. So the amount of disappointment that you can get from actually losing one of these tournaments, or even losing on the bottom bracket of a tournament, would, in some cases, completely devastate the player, especially with the amount of practice that they put in. I also feel like, for casters, it's the same thing. This isn't... it seems like we see this more with StarCraft, probably because it's a computer game, where the players will actually interact with their fans by streaming live on Twitch. Now, it's not something that you would normally see in any other branch of the eSports community. So Um, and again, I'm not sure. I know that guys shake hands and stuff, but it seems like the guys that play Xbox are a little more prone to shit talk than to, shake hands, say well played, and actually mean it. You know. So for the most part, I think that StarCraft 2, the entire community as a whole, I love it. Even though you get your shit talkers on the internet, the 13-year-old guys that feel like they're the shit, and then you completely demolish them, and then you're still being trash talk saying that you're a shitty player. Besides those guys, when you start getting into the upper level brackets, it really does become a more respectful community, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, but it works that way in most sports too. The higher up you get, the more respect there is because, talent recognizes talent. It's more of a brotherhood, a sense of camaraderie.
Yeah.
In terms of the upper echelon of any type of talent, where, you recognize that this other player has it, and then, you welcome them into the fold. So there's a mutual respect there. The higher you get in any, talent that you strive to improve. And, there's always going to be the bad apples, like you said, like the little 13-year-old faggots. And when I say faggot, I don't mean gay people. I mean, just faggot. And they're always going to be like that. But you know what? They're not gamers. They just play games.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really important distinction that needs to be made, is that, you know what? If you're going to act that way, if you're going to act immature and you're going to shit talk and you're going to do your very best to be a detriment to everyone else's enjoyment of the game, you're not a gamer. You're just a fuck who plays games.
Yeah.
A gamer is someone who enjoys what they do as a passion and strives to enjoy it with other people.
That's very true.
Okay?
Yep.
That's a gamer. That's not what they are. They're just them. Okay? And there's always that element in any facet of society, not just games. Okay? But that's an important distinction, because games get a lot of bad rap because of kids, I'm doing air quotes, but play GTA and then go shoot things.
Stuff, yeah.
Which, by the way, has been debunked by every major psychologist and institution that had the chance to debunk it. But that notwithstanding, games have continuously gotten a bad rap just as games, as a drain on a child's intellect, or drive, or social abilities, what have you. And you know what? To say that it was a drain on a child's social abilities may have been the case, but with the advent of online gaming, that's not really an issue anymore.
No, not really.
In fact, you know what? You go to Facebook and you look at someone who is an avid online gamer, and chances are they might have more friends than you.
Yeah, that's very true.
And they probably haven't met 75% of them.
Yeah.
But they play with them, they talk to them, they interact with them, they are friends, and they have probably never met. It took me, 3 years before I met you?
Yeah.
Okay, 3 years of being really good friends before I ever even saw you face to face.
Yeah.
And that's the type of shit that this culture that we embrace brings.
And I just want to emphasize that the first time that we did meet, it was like I was meeting a brother that I had never met before.
Yeah,
we were lifting each other up off the ground, and just giving each other huge hugs. And then we hopped in the car and jetted down to Georgia. But
Yeah, but there was no like awkward. It's not one of those things where like you set up a blind date with some girl and then you are just awkward as shit going to meet them. It's not like this person's been built up and you're going to go meet them and how is it? It's not like that. It's just your friends and that's what it is and it's great.
yeah,
And like that's what gaming brings. And gaming by itself has had a fairly strong foothold in the cultural aspect of America. Like I'm going to talk about America because that's where I live and that's what I know. And I'm sure it's different in other places, but that's not my problem. It's had a foothold in the culture of America for a while. It hasn't been prevalent.
right. It's been an underground society.
Yeah, like when I was little, my aunt and uncle had a Nintendo Entertainment System, so whenever I went over to their house, I got to play Mario and Duck Hunt and Castlevania and Triple Double, Double Dribble, shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then when I got my first system, personally in my house, I believe it was a Sega Genesis, and it was the year Sonic 2 came out, so that was
that's good.
Jesus, 93 maybe, 90,
Yeah.
92, 93, somewhere in that range. So I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I was like one of the only kids that I knew that actually had a Sega Genesis.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, and then it really didn't become a thing in my circle of friends until roughly the PlayStation came out.
yeah,
Because then people either had like a PlayStation or they had an N64, or if you were really weird / rich, you had a Sega Saturn. Like that's when it started breaking out of its shell, and really it happened for two reasons. One of them was sports games, and the other was Pokemon.
yeah. Those
And
are
I know
huge.
you're like, well, what the fuck? Pokemon wasn't for PlayStation or N64 when they came out. No, they weren't. But it was a video game that literally the entire country was talking about. And that's
Yeah.
all it took was one game. Well,
One
technically
game.
2 games. And that's all it took was an entire generation of children playing one game that brought video games to that forefront, and then everything else just kind of leached off of that and got more popular. And then it hasn't grown necessarily in the terms of cultural importance. Like I want to stress cultural importance. It definitely has grown in terms of cultural influence for sure.
Yeah.
With the PS2, the Xbox Live, okay, and then Xbox 360, PS3, Jesus Christ, the Wii was a cultural mainstay for fucking 2 Christmases.
Yeah.
Okay, like its cultural influence has grown. At this point, video games touch almost every different aspect of our culture, whether it's movies, music, fashion, whatever it may be. The video games might touch it in some place, but in terms of the importance of video games in our culture and the significance of it, I don't think it's actually grown. I don't think it's garnered more respect.
No, I don't think so either.
It's gotten bigger, but I don't think it's necessarily garnered more respect. It's just there.
Yeah, it's more socially accepted, I guess would be the word. It's still not 100% accepted. It's not.
Yeah, right. Like you're not going to be ostracized as a gamer like you would have back when I was
Back
in
when
middle
we were
school
doing
and high
it,
school.
yeah.
You definitely won't be ostracized as much. I mean, there's still that social stigma about being a gamer in America that probably won't go away for a little bit. But it's definitely not as bad. But then you compare that with the video game culture of a place like Korea, where they have actual TV stations devoted to competitive gaming,
Right.
where they have nightly breakdowns that's pretty much like the sports center of games in Korea, where they break down that the entire day's worth of competitive gaming, and their competitive gamers, as status symbols, eclipse our own movie stars and music stars,
Yeah.
in terms of fame and popularity, and they even eclipse our athletes in terms of the kind of respect that they garner for what they do.
Yeah.
And like that's huge that a country has that type of mentality, and it's branched into Europe on a much smaller scale. It's not quite as prevalent. I would say that gaming has more cultural importance than it does in America, in Europe. But I mean, let's face it, no one's touching Korea for a long time. In terms of what they offer and what they bring to the table.
At least 10 years.
Yeah, Jesus. I mean, we'd be lucky if we do what they do in 10 years. It's phenomenal how that happened in Korea. And I don't even know 100% how that happened in Korea. That's something I've been meaning to actually read up on and educate myself on, because it's fascinating to me how a country, could need something to latch onto, and they just latched onto competitive gaming.
Yeah.
And it happened right around when StarCraft Brood War came out.
Right.
So, like, I honestly have been meaning to educate myself on that, and I'm definitely going to, because it's bugging the hell out of me, because I can't figure out, what caused that in Korea.
Well, I think it might have something to do with the cultural differences. Just as a for instance, our parents, right? They are the baby boomers, and when they were growing up, it was all about going outside and playing. Now, for us growing up, when we started playing games more than 30 minutes to 2 hours a day, our parents started to get a little worried. So they would take it away from us, try to encourage us to get away from it as much as possible, which is why I think for the longest time it was an underground society. I would lay awake in bed. I remember one of the first times that I got a one of those Game Boy lights.
Oh yeah, the little bendy.
Yeah, and
like a sippy straw.
Exactly. And I would lay in bed and play it at night instead of going to sleep to go to school, because my parents were all the time saying, you should go outside, you should go outside, you should go outside, get away from it. And instead of being like Day Nine's parents, which were or his mom, and embracing the fact that this is something that he's really passionate about, or this is something that if he does it right, he could really love what he does and succeed at it. And this game, a lot like, I'm also reading the Art of Learning. It's a really good book for any of you that are out there. I know Day 9 recommends it, and that's how I got into it. But even in that book, his stepdad was a big football guy, but instead he helped Josh by supporting him in playing chess. He would take him to the park, and I think it was in New York, and would let him play with everybody around. And his mom would do it, and that's something that we lacked, I think. And I was just talking to my parents about this today, and over in the Asian culture, if you score an F, it's not only disrespectful to your family, but it's also very it weighs on your conscience really heavily. Okay, whereas over here, it's really hard to explain. But if I make an A, I get praise. If I make an F, I get my game's taken away for a week. Like, it doesn't have the same significance. If you take something away from me, I'll just find something else to do.
Yeah, no, I I see where you're coming from with that, and it has less of a it has less gravity in America, and it is because it's not seen as a sign of disrespect to your to your parents who were the first teachers,
Right.
which is how they view it. Like this is how you represent us to the world by getting an F. Like that's pretty like that's the mindset. That's something that is lacking in America. But um, yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, and I think
Sure.
that a lot of that has to do with the rules that America puts in place too. Like you can't spank your child and stuff like that. But there's other ways now that we can go about teaching our kids. And this is going off on a tangent, so I'm gonna stop and try to loop it back around to eSports, and perhaps I'll talk about this some other time, or we can either way. So anyway, coming back to esports, there's a lot of things that are integrated into it. I think that a lot of these guys are actually getting into houses and starting up these like the NASL. Just as a for instance, they buy a house together or they rent one, and they turn one room into a studio, probably the living room, and then they end up shooting. And I think that kind of initiative is something that's really going to be big. It's going to play a huge role in getting esports in a more proactive type of setup. And I think that more folks like you and I that come up, the better. The only problem with it is, time goes on, some folks will stay, some folks will go. It's just whoever works the hardest at this point.
Well, it's right, but yeah, it's true. But right now, it's trending up in a big way. As a for instance, I think last year, in the entirety of MLG's Pro Circuit season for 2011, they had 3.6 million individual viewers.
That's a lot.
So over the entire season, they had 3.6 million individual people watching.
Right.
They peaked at 241,000 concurrent viewers at one competition, and I think it was at the finals, which was in Providence. Providence, yeah, because we actually watched that. We took a whole weekend and watched that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they had about 250,000 people, concurrent unique viewers at once. That was their record for last year at one time. So 250,000, 3.6 million overall.
Yeah.
Do you want to know what numbers they pulled for the spring championships just last month?
What's that?
4.7 million viewers.
Jesus.
For the weekend. For the weekend.
Okay.
Wonder how many tuned in on Sunday?
How many?
2.2 million.
Oh, wow.
That's 450. That's 450% more than their former. No, 250% more. I don't know. My math's terrible. It's in the hundreds of percents more. Okay, than their former concurrent record. Okay, and that's within.
Very short time frame.
Yeah, that's within a little more than half a year. So, it's definitely trending up. Oh, wait, no, hold on a second. I'm reading this wrong. So there's 2.2 million tuned in over the entire day on Sunday. I apologize. But
that's still a lot.
But they still broke their concurrent record by 200 about 200,000 or so people concurrently at one time.
Okay.
But still, I mean, more unique people watched in that weekend than their entire last season of MLG championships.
That's crazy.
So that's something that, I think a lot of other tournaments that do operate in North America need to look at and really take heart by. And I know that this past weekend, Evo had their 2012 championships, and they were pulling in record numbers. I haven't been able to get any hard numbers yet, but I know that at the very least, their numbers on Twitch were huge.
Yeah, I was talking to my brother about that, and he said when he watched it for a brief minute, because obviously the stream was lagging like a bitch, and I was also told that all of the other streams were complaining because of this one stream. They had 70,000 viewers at one time
On Twitch?
on Twitch.
Yeah.
So, when I still can't figure out why we don't have a television station that has bought this yet, that has tried to get this implemented into their station. If they are, I can't wait for it, because, that... I don't want to see it move off of Twitch, because, personally speaking, I like watching stuff more on my computer now than I ever have, especially with my pretty 27-inch, but, and the fact that you can hook your computer up to a TV anymore. And the way that eSports is going, I am really excited. I don't know that it'll ever beat out real sports. I say real sports like this one's fake, but I don't know that it'll ever beat out sports, but I think it'll come close, and it'll be a really close competitor at some point in the future, 10, 20 years down the road. And you know what? I'm really excited to have my kids sit on my lap and watch, Don Regu and MVP go up against each other. Or, Don Regu and MMA. And to say, hey, I was around when this started. This is beautiful. I helped get this off the floor.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really what it's going to be for a lot of people is if esports, really cements its hold and, pushes gaming over, just over that last hurdle into the American mainstream, a lot of people are going to be able to say that. A lot of people are going to be able to say, I was there when this happened and I helped.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it'd be really great is if you and I can point at the TV and go, Daddy used to be on there.
Yeah, it's wishful thinking.
Yeah.
But it's definitely possible, and it leads back to Korea. If they can do it, then we as a culture in America, we can achieve something close to that. And I'm not saying we're going to be able to achieve that because, like I said, they are at a level that is so high above everyone else, it's not happening.
Right.
But if we can just, even harness half of the energy that they put into their gaming, like, we're going to be in a really good place. And it's already started happening in America in more of a grassroots fashion with the bar crafts that have started popping up.
Yep.
Especially since the winter, when they were featured pretty heavily on some of the tournaments and streams.
Oh yeah.
And that's a grassroots approach. That doesn't necessarily involve the internet. It doesn't involve a podcast. It doesn't involve a stream. It doesn't involve a show. It's just you and a bunch of your dudes going to a bar, convincing them to play a StarCraft match, and then hanging out, drinking, and watching it.
Yeah.
And then that puts it on a very close parallel to the sports that we treasure so much right now in America.
Oh yeah.
And it's really, I mean, I want to say good idea, but that's not what I really mean. Like, it's ingenious. It's a very ingenious way of presenting it in a fashion that your average Joe can just get.
Yeah.
Because, like, they go to the bar and watch baseball and drink. So these guys go to the bar and watch StarCraft and drink. I get that. And then maybe, he gives it a shot. Goes to a barcraft, watches a game, and loves it. Or, he doesn't. But that's not the point. The point is that they got somebody outside of our mainstream, to wander in and see what it's all about. And, barcrafts are a really great way to do that.
Yeah.
And I hope that, more grassroots efforts, can be implemented to try to help. And I mean, that's not to say that they haven't been, because let's face it, LAN parties and LAN events have been happening since the fucking internet began. LAN parties have always been a staple of the online gaming community. But I mean, as an event, like, they've never really, taken that next step, trying to break that wall like Barcraft does. At least not in America, because as we all know, DreamHack is the world's largest LAN party. And yearly it breaks,
records,
world and Swedish records.
Right.
For internet speed, attendance, what have you. And I mean, DreamHack is another great example of it. It's a singular event that you can both watch online and you can go to, much like MLG. The difference is just the sheer volume of it. Where in 2011 they had 21,000 physical people at DreamHack.
Yeah. Those are
they
impressive
had,
numbers.
Yeah, they had almost 1.6 million unique viewers on the streams. Very, very large prize pool. And I mean, this thing was so big it encompassed 2 arenas and a hockey rink.
No, I wasn't aware of that. That's actually really good.
Like, that's fucking huge, dude.
Yeah.
I live in New York, so when Comic-Con comes to town in New York City, I go down and I go see it. And it's in the Jacob Javits Convention Center, which some of you may know, some of you may not know. For those of you who do know it, it's fucking huge. Okay? DreamHack would take up 1.5 Jacob Javits Centers in terms of size. Like, that's huge.
That is huge.
And it's just for gaming. It's just for gaming. That's all it is. It's got the LAN parties. It's got the tournaments. It's got the broadcasting events. And it's its own entity. And I mean, it has the advantage of only happening once per year. So there's that anticipation building up to it. Much like something like BlizzCon or PAX.
Mm-hmm.
Where you've got that whole year leading up to it, and you're just, antsy in your pants to go to it when it happens, and you go, but the fact that it's once a year doesn't matter. I mean, it's still a model for success.
Yeah.
And things in America like MLG and NASL, Jesus Christ, are on that track. But personally, what I feel that they should do as events to really make themselves a cut above the rest is, in addition to offering the tournaments, the broadcasting, and the streams, you offer a LAN area for people to come, bring their shit, set up, and have their own tournaments.
Yeah.
And have their own matches. Like, because that's
I think it's already in the works though, because IPL just had their I think it was their finals with Hot Important Nights. So you got to do both at the same time, which is pretty cool, and a lot of hot chicks. But
if it isn't Hot Important Nights, Cars.
Yes, so they intertwine the two, but it's still you would still be able to come out and look at screens and see that, this is what's going on between these two guys, and you'd be able to listen
Right.
to the casters and things like that. So it was still a venue.
Well, like the point I was making was just that it's right now in America. It still seems, in terms of esports, it still seems like it's like if you get to compete in an MLG or an NASL, like you're almost deified because they've been through the qualifiers and they've been through all this. So you really all you're seeing at some of the major parts of a major American esports event is the best of the best.
Yeah.
Okay, and it still gives you that, that same feeling that you get when you go to like a pro basketball game. And like I was lucky enough to go to pro basketball games when Jordan played, and it was that feeling of I'll never be like him. Even if I wasn't, but even my friends who were die-hard basketball fans and trained every day and wanted to get basketball scholarships, it was still like I will never be like him. And it might not be to that level, but in some respect, I feel like that notion still applies to a lot of the esports tournaments in America, where like you are seeing people who you're probably not going to be as good as,
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of still leaves a little bit of like inaccessibility of, because you go there and you watch them play, and then that's all you're doing is you're just going there and watching them play. But if they did have, space for, like a LAN, like that opens up a whole other avenue of traffic that you could get, where people will go, bring their rigs, play each other, on a face-to-face basis.
Yeah. I think that would be kind of cool. I thought about doing that when I was going through that phase where I wanted to open up a esports bar. I thought about having a front end and then a back end, and the back end was like a small warehouse that we could hook up a bunch of computers and have folks go out there, and we can just out of the blue, for no reason, like every so many days we would have a tournament. Just a bullshit tournament, means nothing. You get some prizes from local companies that agree to help back it, and just go about it that way. And I think that we need to do a lot more of those. And to be honest with you, looking on Team Liquid's site, on the forums, there are a lot of people that are trying to put together a lot of, not so much LANs, which would be nice, but there's a lot of tournaments coming up.
Right.
Which is good and bad all at the same time. Good because it gives a lot of possibilities, and it gives you that one-on-one interaction where you can go head-to-head with somebody else in a tournament fashion, where you have to, if you don't win, you don't get the prize.
Right.
Now, I also want to go back to something else for just a minute, and it's been bothering me a lot. You notice what I was just talking about. I was talking about prizes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I feel like, I don't know if you've watched Ninja Warrior. I'm going to use this as an example. They brought that over to America, okay, and it's called the American Ninja Warrior. And the cool aspect of Ninja Warrior, and I don't know if this is just me, I've talked to my dad and my brother about it, and they both feel the same way. The honor that America has is nothing in comparison to the Asian culture. So the amount of honor that you see up on stage when, like, Puma or DRG wins versus I don't know. An American player doesn't come up off the top of my head.
Well, I mean,
That's
Huck is
won.
Canadian.
Yeah, that counts. So when Huck wins, I just don't feel like there's a whole hell of a lot of honor there. Like he's just, oh yeah, I'm the best, and I got a prize. And I feel like that's a huge problem with foreigners because the money prize should not be what you're striving for. It should be about that honor. It should be about, you know, having face value. You know, people see you and they're like, "Oh, you are a genius on the map." Or, you know, the combinations that you use in your fights are absolutely astounding and I want to shake your hand right now. Like that is the feeling that you should get every time you play, and I feel like in North America we don't have that. We just don't. And I wish and I hope that if and when, because this is going to happen, eSports becomes big here, that we don't trash it like we tend to do everything else with prizes or you know, material items, because it's not the material item that counts. It's the experience, it's the respect that you get, it's the fun that you have along the way. The again, going back to the experience, you know, even playing that 1v1 against the platinum player when I was gold, right after they implemented that change to the way that the ladder worked.
Mm-hmm.
I can still remember the entire fight, the entire thing, solely because I was so in it. I couldn't tell you about the other ones, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But this one PvP sticks out in my mind completely. And when I won, I was ecstatic. And that's the feeling that these pros need to go off of, not, oh, well, I need to make that money. I need to make bank. And that's
true.
That's
Well,
how
I
feel
mean,
about it.
to play devil's advocate, a lot of them do need the money because you don't make that much from some of these sponsorships.
That's understood.
And commercial spots, and you know, this is they choose to try to make a living. So I mean, there's something wrong with trying to make that paycheck. And I mean, in terms of keeping esports in like an honorable light, like that's bullshit. Because if you look at Korea and the entire culture of esports over there, there's really nothing honorable about that. It's just a sensationalized media fuckfest in terms of esports. You know, like it's just a bunch of little Asian dudes walking around in like the Asian equivalent of Ed Hardy clothing, signing autographs, and like making chicks swoon. It's nothing different than a lot of sports in America is. You know, like it's not this overly romanticized, honorable thing. It really isn't. Like they may not play for the money, but that's because they don't need to, just because of where they come from. Like they're set just because of what they do and what they're good at and where they're from.
Right, because
So
their
they may-
sponsorships are a lot better.
Yeah, so they may not play for the money, but I don't really think honor has anything to do with it. I don't. That's more their culture than it is the way they view the game.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, their gaming culture, and well, you know, like when I say their culture, I mean their ethnic culture. Their gaming culture really, like I said, has no honor to it at all. It's roughly equivalent to our Major League sports culture, where it's just, you know, over sensationalized and media run driven even, and just a lot of money getting poured into a select few individuals.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess you can call me naive by hoping for it. It's just I don't feel like I like watching Ninja Warrior because of that aspect. Like, you don't ever, on the original Ninja Warrior, you never really hear anything about a monetary prize. It's just
Well, yeah, but also, dude, Ninja Warrior is Japanese.
That's understood.
We're talking about Korea. They're close, but they're very, very different in terms of their culture.
Yeah, like I said, I was just using it as an example.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, I
just
feel you.
I would like to see more honor in it than anything else. It's a personal feat to be able to get out there on in the booth and sit down and I don't know if you've seen it, but like when Liquid Hey Pro won, believe it was DreamHack when he went up against
Hmm.
Puma.
Hmm.
When
I
he
think it
came out of the booth, the reaction that he had, that's why I watch esports. That reaction where, oh my god, that was so fucking clutch, and you're shaking and you're crying and you don't know, there's so many emotions and you have no idea how to take it out.
yeah.
That's why I watch esports, because that moment, I can totally relate to that just based off of playing a ladder match.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's especially the really hard ladder matches, because when you get into the zone, and I'm just going to tell you this because you haven't played the ladder. When you get into the zone, and you know for a fact that, okay, this guy's building cannons outside of my natural. I was ahead on getting units, but he tried to 4-gate and didn't work because of my cannons. So now he's at the bottom of my ramp, and I have nothing right now that I can really push out with. And to know that you don't have any map control at all, and if you don't push out soon, that you're going to lose, and then to be able to overcome that is just this amazing sensation of just, you feel so good about yourself. You're like, yeah, I fucked that guy up. Me. Nobody else. It wasn't a pro gamer. It wasn't anything else. It was me. I did it. That was all my strategy.
Yeah.
And that is the exact reason why I watch that shit. Because of that.
Yeah, and I mean that's a feeling. I feel that pretty much anyone who's played any online game, whether it's you know Hello Kitty Island Adventure to Halo, like everyone's had a moment like that where, well, probably not just one moment, but at least one moment like that where you just feel this immense sense of accomplishment because you've just achieved something that was really not going your way, and it was only through your strategy and ingenuity and skill that you managed to pull it out.
Right.
It's like when like when you're playing Halo 2 and your entire team is dead and it's 4-on-1, you know, and you somehow lead them on a merry chase where you just pick them off one by one and then get the flag and cap it and it's game over. Like it's that same feeling where it's you've accomplished something that you shouldn't have accomplished.
Yeah.
Or something that you were highly unlikely to accomplish. It's that feeling that makes esports so great. In any aspect, in any genre of esports,
Oh,
shooters,
sure.
RPGs, ARPGs, like whatever it is, everyone's had that moment. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, because a fairly large majority of the online gaming community is still console online gaming community is still dominated by sports games, and there really isn't an avenue for sports games in esports right now, and there probably won't be because it can be way too time consuming, and it's not really as skill indicative as, let's say, an RPG or a shooter because there's too many variables. But I mean, that's something that they're going to have to try to bridge as well, is trying to get the people who don't have their particular genre of game in esports, but do play games.
Hmm.
Give them a reason to watch. And I mean, it might just be a little heavier emphasis on the shooters. Because shooters are accessible and a lot of people play them too, so that might be a way in. Who knows? I mean, that's for the future, and that's for you know others to decide, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, uh, all that being said, I think we're coming pretty close to time to shut down here. Um, we hope you guys enjoyed the cast. This is something new that we've done. We don't normally cover a wide scope. I actually really enjoyed it myself. Being able to jump from topic to topic without having to really worry about, um, you know, any conflicting, bringing up Diablo 3 during a StarCraft 2 cast or whatever. But really hope you all enjoyed the cast. We'll be doing this twice a week, just like we always have. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, and I mean, you know what? If you listen to this, and you're intrigued, or you think that this is something that should happen, go to Twitch, go to Justin TV. Watch the next live stream of MLG, watch the next NASL live stream, watch the next IPLs. Jesus, go to GOM TV. Just go and watch what we've been talking about, see what it's all about, and if it's something you dig, tell your friends about it. And if they dig it, they'll tell their friends. This is how it's going to happen, if it happens, and I hope it does. So, yeah, just watch and enjoy.
And I also want to note too, if you guys like this more than us doing the Diablo 3, StarCraft 2, we can certainly do this a lot more. Again, feedback is key to helping us succeed with this. So any kind of feedback at all would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, let us know what you like, and we'll cater.
Yes, and
Pander to your whims.
for those of you that were just watching, I had a timer going. I didn't think that the website was actually going to beep at me, but it did, so I apologize for that random, atrocious noise. But thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.